open. Some of you may have heard that Father Gailhac had a priest friend called Abbe Martin. Abbe Martin in 1813, okay, this is when Gailhac is 11, had the refuge opened. And so Gailhac saw his mentor's example, that he worked with these women in the town. And he's the one who worked with the Dames de Saint-Maur. And then, Gailhac inherited them. Then Gaillac's refuge, he opened it when Abbe Martin died. He, opened it again in another place 20 years later and took it over from 1834 to 1851, when it was definitely closed. And then the individual works of the founder came over, or started. All right, just so you know that. Just to give you some numbers, in 1834, there were 14 women. 1836, 20. 1839, 31. And 1842, 50. In other words, it became known as a place where you could be helped and protected. So 50 women recovering from all kinds of things, and 50 women going between the hospital, the Hotel Dieu, and the refuge. I mean, it was a lot. Just think about it. It was really a lot. And the curse of the times, of course, was venereal disease. So the laws for the prostitutes having a medical exam and all that, but not all of them could afford it. They paid for it. In other words, you're supposed to get it, but you had to pay for it. So therefore, you had to turn tricks, as they said, in order to get the money to pay for your physical exam to make sure you didn't have venereal disease. Hello? Something else about the 19th century, you see there in the pages, I've just roughly done it out, but you see the first page, all of those different, all the politics of the 19th century. It's not an exaggeration, they're all there. All right. And then I just took it forward so that you see we're in the Fifth Republic. And then the statistics on Béziers down below are the statistics now. All right. I do have the statistics. How many people were living in Béziers in the time of the founder? It's something like 18,000. 9,000 men, 9,000 women, give or take a few. I have it somewhere here. But 18,000. So now it's 4 times that, about 72,000. And it's still an east-west, and we still have 1 million people coming to the bullfights in August. Get out of town for the bullfights, all right? And again, think Les Mis if you have seen it. All right. Then on the next page, I did the friendship. The 3 friends. John Gailhac was the oldest, excuse me, mistake, 7 children. I counted up 4. So he's one of 7, the oldest boy of 7. And then Eugène Cure was an only child. And Apollone was the youngest of 4, and 2 died. So she only had her brother, from whom she was estranged because of the money, until the last week of her life. They reconciled on her deathbed. And then the people that I think are absolutely superb in this great line, and all who knew Gailhac, are our first 3 general superiors. Because basically, they put forward all the things that we needed to have as a congregation in order almost to get started. And I put his siblings and put their dates and all that. And the reason I did that, where it says Père Gailhac and siblings, is because if you go down to the asterisk, Anne Louise Grenier is his baby sister, and it's Her husband died within 6 weeks of being married, yet she had a child, the famous Eugène Grenier, who is his niece. Who of us knew that Gailhac had a niece when we were in the division? I certainly didn't. But we weren't supposed to have parents either at that point. Or speak of our families, so we never heard Gailhac had a niece, who became the founding superior of Liverpool, and was the bane of his existence because she wouldn't learn English. But just to tell you where she comes in the pecking order. And on the back of his siblings, I put down all these places that you hear, and you don't necessarily know. And of course I have a mistake. His father died in 1866, and Gailhac was 64. I was just, I was Corin is a whiz at typing, she really is. And I had half of it done, but not the other half. And when we hear about Gailhac writing letters to communities, remember we're not 100 communities then. Those are the communities, 7 communities that Gailhac was writing to during his lifetime. And that's when they were founded, all right? So it's with the 2nd General Superior that expansion begins, all right? Lisbon, Porto, Liverpool, Sag Harbor, Braga, Ferrybank, and Chaves in Portugal, okay? Those are the foundations there. If we could skip the works, there's some other details. Skip that middle page where I've listed the works of Father Gailhac and then the general superiors in order. Go to the next page where it says the first religious of the Sacred Heart of Mary. I originally had the first 10, but I wanted to put Eugène Grenier on this list, and she wasn't one of the first 10. But what I did was, I put the age of the first sisters and how old they were when they entered, as we would say. 40, 24, 33, 36, 24, 37, 18. You either pity the oldest or you pity the youngest. I don't know which one there. And there's some where there are double names, and I'm not sure of the birth, so I didn't put it down. But then I also, if you look, they died. Mère Saint-Jean died at 60. Rosalie, Mère Saint Stanislas, who was the first mistress of novices, died at 34. Mère Saint Croix was 63. Cécile Campbell was 61. Marie Roch was 65, Sir Agnès. Rose Froment was 74. And Marie Mema, all right, the 3rd General Superior, lived to be 91. Okay, that's Mère Saint Félix. See now, the books that we have or are available to us are the letters of Mère Saint Félix. You know, she's the one who resigned in 1905 and said, I've had enough, it's more than 20 years. And then she lived another 15 or 16 years. And I just to connect the dots, not that she's a dot, but our centenary religious, Angela Hearn, many of you may know she was 100 about 3 weeks ago, and she died this week. So she will be buried Tuesday. And basically, Angela Hearn was alive when Mère Saint Félix was alive. See, connected. I think those connections make us closer. You know, maybe it's just me, but I think they do. So Angela Hearn was born in 1914, and we have good old Mère Saint Félix around until 1922. 8 years, you know. And then I put the oblates. I just thought you might be interested. The oblates worked in the orphanage and the refuge. And if there were any left, they were the poor. These were some of the people who also came into Père Gailhac for spiritual direction, as well as the, Apollonie Pure and all the others. And, they did the hard work. But these are the only ones we have in the necrology. The necrology I carry around. You can get more in that necrology. If you have any doubt about when somebody died, or who was where, or where did they die, you find it in the necrology. It's really good. So part of that too, if you notice the dates, 9 dead in 4 years. Oh, scandal. They just worn out. There was no, this is where a lot of that came. On the back of the list with the first religious and the oblates, now this, I did all the other lists, but this list was made up by Andre Delegate. She was in the Mother House for 6 years. And it occurred to her that every time she turned around in her reading or research, another person close to Per Gailhac was dying. So look at all the people who died, all right, in his lifetime. And I would add one other, Sir Saint Modeste, who was one of the first 6, died in 1886. Okay? But I added a little bit where I thought maybe people wouldn't know who he was. But I mean, the fact that his 2 brothers died, at 6, and then it just gets close to one, and
they had the same name.
yeah, and well, that was something. If someone, we would think we wouldn't give the same name maybe, but see, it was the custom to try and give the name again, not because of the father, but because they wanted the life. So they do have names. I checked that one out too. And the last page there, the first 3 general superiors, it's the second to last page again. These lists may be useful to no one except they were interesting to me, and I thought you might like that. These are the first general superiors, all right, and each one, quote, accomplished, if I could use that word, something that was really important for us to exist now. Mayor Saint-Jean done a great donation, and Napoleon III legally recognized the Institute. Mayor Saint-Croix, the pontifical, papal recognition of the Institute is in 1873. And then the canonical approval, I guess the regulations, is in 1889, so that before, and that's only 40 years from the founding of the Institute, and before Gailhac died. I think that's wonderful. We had canonical approval of the Institute. So we were in with Flynn, if I could use that expression, in terms of Pope, Church, and City, all right? And then I thought you might be interested, what about the numbers? Where are we, where were we? And a present community member is now serving in the General Aid Secretary, so I emailed her and I said, okay, please get me the numbers. So in the 1950s, we were about 1,000. The summit of our membership, 1966, we were 2,006 members. Okay? As of last week, we are 740 members, of whom 728 are perpetually membered, and there are 12 in temporary profession. Okay? And the projection from all those statistics for 2024 is 480. So then last night I was saying to myself, let me count how many died last year. According to my necrology, I told you I counted it around. According to my necrology, we lost 25 or 26 sisters institute-wise. So I don't know how that adds up, or maybe it doesn't, but the projection is still going. And again, as we go forward, we're going to age more and die more frequently, if that's an expression. And again, on the back page, and again, it's to take home to look at, whatever. What I did, with all due respect to Patricia being present, this is strictly mine, nobody else to blame. I took all the general superiors. We used to say superiors general, but I mean, whatever I say, you get the general idea. And I put the years in office. Please God, Roz will last 6 years. But anyway, the years in office at the left-hand side. And in some ways, I think, again, God bless Corey, she was inspired. She took my handwriting and did this. I think the first 3 go together, and I describe it as setting the tone. 56 years? When you think of that, that's more than a third. It's a good chunk, all right? So that's where I put each of the approvals. And then Saint Constance, the brother, and Gerard, her cousin, solidified the houses, and we did have, of course, well, I put the board, many foundations, okay? And that's another 50 years, give or take, right? And then I think Vatican II, which is Rita Rowley, Margarita and Lourdes, were overseeing a transition. It's Vatican II, you know, with Rita, all right? She's 1960 to 63, all right? So it's Vatican II, whereas the first one, actually, 1870, is Vatican I. So the first half of us is governed by Vatican I, which they all left because war was on, declared by France, of course. So, I mean, they left without doing anything. So there are theologians who will have said that Vatican II is not II, it's the completion of one. So the first half of our institute, in some ways, maybe not time-wise, is under Vatican I, and then we come into a new world, all right? And we come into generals again, 25 years, Vatican II, and I put Mary kind of by herself because of the new rule. So for all of the ones that are above Mary, we're under the first rule, okay? Mary, February 24th, 1983. I always say Mary and Cardinal Peronio. Cardinal Peronio was our great friend, and you know, people have told me, and Patricia, you might be able to verify this better than I can, that Cardinal Peronio was a friend of the RSHM, and somehow, among them all, they made it happen. And our rule was, you know, the new rule was approved, you know, in time that other religious congregations just had never experienced. So I put Mary kind of apart. I think Mary, if I could use this, Mary came from the West. Definitely. When she came, she was Mick Milligan. Yeah. Mickey. I was in the division with her. And she's 6 months older than I am. But she was Mick Milligan, and she was from California, and we knew that. But then she went, and she came to Tarrytown. So she had California in her blood. She came to Tarrytown, that went into the blood. And she went to the mother house, and she didn't leave Europe, really, for a long time. So in some ways, Mary has more old world, yet with, you know, the West, all right, and, you know, and her connection to Hollywood, you know what I mean? It was like, in New York, do you know? Especially when she was Mickey, you know. And Mother Marguerite knows we didn't call her that too long. Mother Marguerite came to the novitiate when I was there, so she was such a pushover. Where are you, Marguerite? Pushover. Next to Mother Hendon. Oh, yeah. You gotta know. And then I think each of the general superiors are the new world. a whole new world. And I'm going to talk about it, this is what I think. I think Patricia's being born in Pennsylvania, all right, and going to Tarrytown a bit for college, right, and then going west, moving west, and being there and, you know, being after Mary, all right, is a whole other perspective. And I think we experience that in the future orientation of PAD. We almost didn't know. We've been so looking at the past because we were getting in touch with our sources. So you're going back and, and the whole thing to Basie and all the rest of it. But in other words, I think Patricia, in her essence, besides being who she is, was a planner, and we needed it. We might not have wanted it. I don't know, all right? But she was the planner, and in a sense, she set a tone for all those who have come after, And there is a mistake on the list of the general superiors. I only gave her credit for 5 years. She suffered for 10. So under the 10, under her, there's a mistake there. She should be 1985 to 95, all right, on that list. Every once in a while there's a mistake. And I think you can just see from the different generals we have had in the last 30 years-ish, all right, it's a whole new world. And about the general superiors, when I look down, the one thing that I didn't put, but if you want to go down, we have been international from the beginning. And that doesn't come into play at a general chapter. But we have French, 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 French. That's pretty normal. Then we go to Irish American, the emphasis there. Irish American, Portuguese, Brazilian, God help me if I make a mistake. All right, US West, British, all right, Brazilian, and Eastern American. And I think that's the spirit working too, to give us such variety. And certainly when you went through Channel Chart, now we've had a French, we got a half. All right, should I stop there before people talk?
Yes, it's very good fun because lunch will be ready in about 5 minutes. It's ready already.
Mary, Our Lady in the 19th century was very, very worried about France. In 1830, she appeared to St. Catherine Labouré, miraculous medal. 25 years later, it was still as bad. Bernadette in Lourdes, 1854. And then 1874, the birth of St. Therese of Lisieux. So you have three, other than always she comes, and she came to 4 women, Carmelite, all right, someone who couldn't read French, 2 who couldn't speak French. Bernadette and Catherine Labouré did not speak French, all right? They spoke the patois, or of their region. Interesting? Thank you.